Hi, everybody. So I want to go over the research project and in another video, I gave you the options for the final project, but I kind of want to talk about all the other little things along the way. Again, these due dates are going to be in your syllabus to kind of map out exactly when they are due. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'm more going to talk about what it is they actually are. And this is also laid out in a document that's in this folder, and I will probably give you little snippets as the assignments are due as well. So your project description assignment. It's okay to change this after you do it, but I want us to get us thinking quick and get on the ball with trying to get wherever it is we're going and know what we're doing. This is an easy 25 points. It's just a Word document, a quick like 1-page document that gives you a list of 2 possible research questions that you want to explore. Remember to kind of, when we're formulating research projects or research questions, to be specific. So we're trying not to be too broad, like how does gender impact work? That's way too broad for a 10-page lit review or any of the assignments you want to do. But maybe we say, how does, specifically, how do mothers within the US, how are they impacted in their ability to get a job by lack of childcare? Something to that effect, right? How does childcare impact mothers in the US finding work? Okay, right. Make sure that we're being specific enough that we're going to find research, not too specific that we're like, hey, how does this specific population in the United States, in this city, right? We want to make sure that we can find research on it, but we also want to make sure that we are not being so broad that the research isn't applicable in a meaningful way, okay? So give us 2 questions. Again, these can change, these can get more specific, they can get a little broader if we need to as we find possibly obstacles to finding research or finding too much research, right? So let's make sure that we can, I can give you some feedback on that as we do that. Also, let's make sure that, tell me how you're going to plan out how you're going to get this project accomplished, right? I want to see you work through some calendar work. This was something, especially as an undergrad, learning how to task out and kind of think through how I'm going to get all the semesters so that when the end of the semester came and all of those papers or all those finals or what have you are getting close, I'm not leaving all of the papers and the finals at the same time, or I'm not leaving all of this big project over here sitting and this big project over here sitting and not figuring out how I can kind of space some of that out, right? I don't want you in panic mode the last week of the class, okay? And then I also want you to include what citation style you will use. I would like for you to use APA or ASA. However, if for some reason, again, you're a creative writing major, you're an English major or something like that, and MLA is the one you use regularly, talk to me. We can probably work that out. I'm just don't use it as much anymore as I used to. But again, also list any barriers or concerns you might have for this project. Again, this is more of a reflective piece. This isn't something that I'm going to grade you on like, hey, you made this so thought-provoking and research-oriented. Like, no, I want you to be real. I want you to talk about how you're going to get this done, talk about your concerns, talk about your questions, and we can kind of go from there. Gives me a starting point to see where you're at. The second one is going to be a discussion board post with an APA or ASA citation, again, depending on if you need a different one, then we'll go from there, including the link for, like, you use your EKU library. That's the easiest way to do that. I'll stable link for the actual, whatever it is you're citing, your peer-reviewed journal article likely, and you're going to put in the discussion post the link for that, a brief synopsis of this, like summarize in a paragraph. Okay, tell me what it is this research about, what the project was, what they did, what they found, right? Short to the point. And then do a full citation for that and make sure you're using in-text citations in the discussion post paragraph. This is going to allow you that ability to get used to making those citations and for us to kind of help you correct them before we get to that final paper. So those points are automatically going to happen, right? We want citation points to just be something that you get. These discussion posts are not going to be one of those things where I'm going to be like, you didn't cite it correctly. This is where I want you to learn how to cite it correctly so that when we get there, we're not panicking, right? But yes, so make sure you have, again, the whole point of that is to make sure that you're doing your full citation, you're correctly using your in-text citations when you're summarizing that, and that you can link the article as well as copy the abstract in there, okay? I understand that the abstract is going to be different than your summary, and make sure that you are clarifying which one it is. Just write abstract, post it in there, summary, and then write it in. Like, don't make this harder than it has to be, okay? And so there's that. The next is going to be attached to kind of that one. The next assignment is that you're going to give feedback on a classmate's article. So you're going to ask a couple of questions. You're going to say, what do you think their project is addressing? I want you to see if you can garner kind of what their topic is based on what it is that their research is talking about, okay? I want you to ask what biases may be present in this article, because I want you guys to critically reflect on your own articles, and doing so in this way helps you kind of do so in a way that feels less concerning. So like, again, if you see an article that's specifically from a specific religious institution on this, or if you see this is from maybe a medical journal, right? They're going to have inherent biases that medicalize or right, like the biases aren't necessarily intentionally bad. They're just, hey, they're looking at this specifically from this lens, and you may want to think about that as you're trying to write this from possibly a different lens, right? Okay. So think through that. Also, if it's an entire group of males writing about a female's body or about body autonomy for females, right, there might be some questions we need to have about that. So pay attention to kind of those things as we're talking through them. The third question I want you to kind of articulate or deal with when you're giving that feedback is, what are some of the questions you have about the broader topic? At least two, right? Okay, so list 2 questions you have about their topic in general that you think that they have, or questions that might help them spark some interest in making sure that their topic is specific enough, right? So this is, again, we're trying to hammer in our research questions. We're trying to make sure that we know what we're researching, and we'll make sure that we know how to cite those things. Lastly, I encourage you guys to also share your resources with each other. This assignment helps you guys critically evaluate sources, and if you have them from previous projects or previous research, sharing research is great. It helps all of us within our larger academic circles help to like take some of the load off, right? So make sure if you have resources that you give them. Like that's super easy. The fourth assignment, kind of as part of this, is a reference list. Okay, this is, again, I am trying to make sure that when you get to that final project and that final project comes to me, there are 0 points taken off of anybody's due to citation issues, right? I want the reference page already done so that we can, essentially, I can help you make edits. I can help you, hey, this is kind of off, or hey, you need to see this resource about doing this because it doesn't look great, right? Giving you that option to be able to edit these things and try to make sure that you have resources that are effective for the topic that you want will help your final grade, right? I'm trying to give you space within the semester to articulate that. Plus, if you have your research already in hand and you already have those articles way earlier on in the semester, you're more likely to actually read them, and that will help you write the paper, okay? So you'll need at least 5 peer-reviewed resources. Now remember, this is very important. They need to be peer-reviewed. That does not mean that you cannot include ones that are not, or like you can't include poetry series or some of the other links, right? Even the ones from within the class within your final project. But you need at least 5 peer-reviewed articles for whatever it is that your topic is, for whatever it is your research question is. And that's because I want to garner that that link between here's my question and here's how I find what has already been done on that question. Okay. Your librarians are awesome. They will help you if you ask. Also, there will be links to the library database. If you have questions on how to search things, shoot me an email. If I get enough of those questions, I will either answer them individually or I will post some kind of video on how to do this, right? I want you guys to have the resources and the ability to do these things, okay? The fifth one is this is getting towards the end of the semester. Here are the big final things, right? You're going to do a narrated either PowerPoint or Prezi. If you've never done a Prezi Prezi is a different kind of presentation software that's mapped out a little differently. And it's a free app. I think that you might also have access to the larger, like the more things you can do in the app through the university. I'm not entirely sure about that. But the university gives you a whole lot of software that sometimes we don't even know exists. So look into some of those things. Either way, this website will, and I will link the website into when we get closer to this and talk you through kind of how to do the presentations anyway, and maybe walk you through one of mine so that you can see kind of how to do those. But Prezi is a good resource. If you use Prezi, I would probably get on Zoom or something like that where you can record. Again, I will walk you through and give you videos on how to do all of these things. But I want you to either narrate your slides in PowerPoint or use your Prezi presentation via Zoom, via share your screen, and walk through that, right? I want to hear you walk through your presentation so that I know that you know what you're talking about. This needs to be no more than 7 to 10 minutes and no more than 7 slides. And I'm pretty descriptive on what your slides are supposed to be so that you should be pretty easy. I want your slides to include your 5 sources, at least your 5 sources, at least 5 of your sources. I want you to talk about your research question itself, and I want you to talk about the limitations you found in your research and or how you're going to use that knowledge in the future. So, okay, if I want 7 slides, right? Your questions come out first. Your 5 peer review things are 5 slides, and your last slide is here are the limitations, here are the things I couldn't find in the research, and or here are also the ways I want to use this knowledge moving forward. Okay, simple, easy peasy. There's your 7 slides. So that will help you. If you need to go through it a couple times, go through it a couple times. Practice with your roommates, practice with your partner, practice with your parents, your siblings, whoever it is around you. Just be like, yo, I'm going to go through this for a minute, sit there, pretend to pay attention to me or not. That's whatever. If you have a serious fright of doing this, understand that these are going to come to me, and that I am only going to give it to the person who is going to give you feedback. Okay, so understand that there are only going to be 2 people within this conversation that will actually listen to this or hear this. So you do not need to panic at all. Detail on, and I'll get closer when we get close to this. Again, I'll give you some more instructions on this. But the feedback, I will give a document that you are going to fill out, and essentially you're going to watch or listen to the video that comes into me or the audio that comes into me, depending on if they're narrating or if they're going through the presentation on Zoom. Either is acceptable, whatever. And again, I also encourage you to use that presentation as a practice if you have presentations coming up, or if you are going to any kind of research symposium, or if you are going to take part in any kind of things come the spring that you're going to need to give presentations. I want you to be able to use this as practice, okay? Especially practice that is not going to come with the amount of pressure that sometimes has, okay? So I want you to, I will have you for the feedback part of this and the 6th assignment. I'll give you a document that will have your name on it, but I will take it off when I give it back to the other person. That will have a whole bunch of questions. Essentially, what did you garner? Was their topic? Was their research question clear? Things like that, right? It's not going to be, hey, were they shaky? Were they nervous? Like, yes, you can see that a lot of us are going to be nervous when they give presentations, and that's okay. This is going to be more focused on, does the research come across? Did they articulate it? What are some positives that you saw? What are some things maybe that you would want them to modify or explain a little more so that you could understand those kind of things? And so it'll be a quick document that you'll fill out. You'll post that back to me instead of it won't be like the discussion post. You're not going to give it straight to that person. You're going to give it to me. I'm going to read over it, make sure that there's nothing in it that feels very harsh or hypercritical of the individuals themselves and not of the presentation or the information being given. But again, if you have a serious concern about the biases maybe in their research or the sources they're getting, or even the messaging that they're trying to use or the language they're using within it, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out. And we can work through some of those things, and I can help you kind of maybe word that in a way that still garners that these things need to be addressed moving forward, but may give them the option to redo or to think through how those things might be impacting in a way that they were not intending it to. So again, we'll get through that, and I'm going to essentially link people probably on proximity to their topic. So like if two people are working on gender and work, or if two people are working on gender and parenting, or something to that effect, make sure that we're getting people that have similar things, so that again, if you're like, hey, last minute I've got some of the research from this or whatever, here's a link to, or here's an article you might want to consider as part of your comments at the end. Okay, this will give you the ability to do that, but I am going to make sure that the names are taken off when you do the feedback, so that there is some level of anonymity. Now, again, you guys are going to know each other's topics and you're going to know who's similar to yours. So taking away full anonymity is probably not something I'm going to be able to do. But I also want to make sure that we are not making this so stressful, like, hey, this person is going to talk badly about me, or hey, this person gave me a critical thing, or hey, I have to actually critically examine someone else and I'm not comfortable with that. I want to take away some of those anxieties and concerns. So once I grade your feedback, I will make sure that the other person gets the feedback. And once you receive feedback, it's something good to think about as you're moving into that final project, and that's the last step. And again, I'll go over that more in detail in the final project options thing, and they also will, I'm sure, get lots of videos between now and then. So that's kind of how these assignments will break down, and there's point values in there so that you understand where your 400 points are coming from for the full project. But I wanted you to make sure you understood that this is going to come in multiple different things, multiple different ways, right? And it's not just going to come out of one big project at the end. Okay. If you have any questions or concerns, as always, feel free to contact me with any of those. Some of them may get brought up and or dealt with as we move further into the semester and get closer to those deadlines or closer to actually doing those things. So make sure that you pay attention to lectures, as anything that's coming due will always be the last part of whatever lecture that I talk about in that module. Okay. I hope you're having a great day, and I will be on here again soon.